I'll be careful.
Okay. All right.
Maybe.
Hello, everybody, whoever's watching.
Yes.
Today is the last Sunday of November, the 29th.
Amen.
We're the first Sunday of Advent. It's, I guess everybody had a good Thanksgiving. It's up to a point for you, Larry.
Larry.
What'd you do for Thanksgiving, Lois?
Well, I was home,
Uh-huh.
and Kristen was going to come from Austin, but I convinced her not to come because of the virus. So she and her little dog Tucker went over to a friend's house, and my lovely neighbors brought me dinner.
Oh,
they brought
wow.
a platter. Yeah, and I told them I was just going to be home and I was fine because I had football, which I love. And so, anyway.
Well, the Texans won.
Yes,
the
I saw
Cowpokes,
that game.
they weren't as good.
Well, Alabama had a good game.
Yeah.
Some of the others did not do as well. Right.
Okay, I don't picture you as a big football fanatic.
Oh, I am a big fan until I get mad.
Oh, okay.
And I'm mad that they won't get up off their knees, and so I'm not a 100% Texans fan yet until they all learn to stand for the national anthem. And until they do that, I just want to kick them.
Well, you could skip over that part, or.
Okay, I guess so.
I swore off pro basketball,
Yes.
pro baseball, and pro football. Just swore it off.
Well, I did too, but I got back in. Kind of.
Until I hear it on the sports reports to change your mind and they all got fired for that, I'm not going back to it.
Yeah.
Well, you're right.
I never watched professional basketball. I never had any interest
I don't
for
watch
it.
basketball anymore at all.
Baseball, I don't have any way to watch them. So unless they were on one of the major networks, I couldn't watch the Astros. So, but football, I haven't really been a big football fan. But I guess the Texans, I feel sorry for them. So I have watched them. But my son-in-law is a fanatic of fanatics for the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, I watched them too, but they didn't do so well.
No, they did pretty bad.
They did bad.
So he's when he watches the game, well, like when he's at our house, I guess he does the same when he's home, but he is animated. He gets as big a workout as the players do. He's jumping up, he's running around the room.
He's not jumping so much this year.
Well, all right, let's go for our class, for our study here. That's what we're really here for, not to ruminate on sports or whatever. But it is interesting. I had a pretty good Thanksgiving. Rosie came over. We had
Oh, good.
I fixed a Thanksgiving dinner. We had turkey, Brussels sprouts, corn, and let's see here. I made some I didn't make it, but I took it out of the box. Some real dressing, not that cornbread stuff. And let's see what else. Oh, we had pumpkin pie and pecan pie.
Wow, that's a
Where'd
nice
you get your
meal.
pie?
Walmart.
We sell them.
They have the little 50-cent pies.
No, those are not good.
Yes, they are.
They're not as good as ours.
Well, probably not. But I bought 2 of each, 2 pumpkin and two pecan.
Okay.
And I cut them in half, and we had half and half. So.
You put ice cream on yours?
No.
Lord, I like those cherry pies.
Oh yeah.
Walmart.
Yeah, I had a
Put that ice
cherry
cream.
pie.
Yep, I like those too. Those are good. So, well, anyway, today we're on page 45. We're going to look at starting in Imitating Christ, question number 3. But before we do that, we're going to have a word of prayer. Father, thank you for this time after Thanksgiving, and let us be thankful continuously. Thank you for allowing us together to study your word in Philippians. Today we're going to look at chapter 2, verses 1 through 4, and maybe a little beyond that. We want to, as we do that, help us to discern what Paul wrote to the Philippians in their time and what it applies to us today. We want to lift up those that aren't with us today and watch over them. May they be in good health. Amen. All right, so we got our first question here is imitating Christ. Let me fire up the old Bible computer here, and
Okay, this was.
we're going to look at how I can flop things around here.
Okay.
We're going to look at chapter 2 and verses 1 through 4 to start with, but our first question, number 3, pertains to verses 1 and 2, and that question being, in chapter 2, verses 1 through 2, Paul calls the Philippians to reflect on the blessings of their common life in Christ. Part A says, what are these 4 blessings? If you look at chapter 2, verse 1, what are the 4 blessings that you see in chapter 2, verse 1? This is an open book test.
One of them
okay.
is the comfort of love. They all share that.
Okay.
And another one is fellowship of the Spirit, the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
And then I was kind of, I put affection for one another and showing mercy to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I got.
Okay.
So y'all help me out here.
All right. Well, let's see here. Larry, did you have?
I got those, and I put down very first one though, because I couldn't get 4.
Okay.
Now, I was having trouble
So I
with
went
that
back, I
too.
said, well, let's get right to the very first part of this, and then I put down encouragement,
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Okay.
and then love and unity, and
Mm-hmm.
and then what I put, merciful, that's it, sympathy and mercy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here's what I can look with.
Okay.
Love, that's a benefit. 4 blessings, the blessings of love. Then I had sharing in the Spirit, that's a blessing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then compassion and sympathy. Those are the compassion and sympathy. And in the version I use, the New Revised Standard, it uses those towards the last 3 words of verse 1 are compassion and sympathy. So I thought that is a blessing, because sometimes you need compassion, and when somebody shows compassion to you, that is a blessing. And sympathy, same goes with sympathy. When you're going through tough times and somebody comes around and they show sympathy to you, with you. All right, part B, it says, in what 4 ways should we respond because of our common experience as Christians? And that's in verse 2. Verse 2 reads, make my joy complete. Be of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind.
That's the 4 I.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. I don't know, in this particular version that I just read here, do you know that what kind of car that the Honda car that the disciples rode in?
See, accord.
Because they were all in one accord.
They were all in one accord.
Oh, gosh.
And boy, was that crowded. I'm telling you, the day they drove up to the
Please.
square.
Oh, what are y'all talking about?
I heard that.
Oh dear, okay. What do you mean car?
Yeah.
They were all in one accord.
It was a big one. Those guys weren't that big.
No, they
were small.
weren't.
But remember back in the 60s, I guess it was the 60s, maybe it was the 70s, when one of the fads was to see how many people you could cram into a Volkswagen
I
bug.
remember that. Or a telephone booth was
Yep,
another
telephone
one.
booth, same thing.
Mhm.
Same thing. So today's devotion in Discipline's book, let me just pull it up here a second, and I'll try to read it rather than me bumble through it. Okay, trusty computer here, come on. All right, here it is. The author says, I once saw a bumper sticker that read, "Be alert. The world needs more alerts."
The world needs more alerts.
Yeah. Be alert.
Alert. Oh my gosh.
That's like the phrase, world peace. Did you see, have you ever seen that bumper sticker?
Yeah.
It says, pray for world, WHIRLED, PEAS, world peace.
Yep.
I don't know.
I don't either.
So, but anyway, this bumper sticker says, be alert. The world needs more alerts. Whatever alert is.
I don't like the sound of it. Alert.
Yeah, that's it. All right, so now before we can advance to the next page, well, down here below in this little gray box, it says study skill, connecting words. Connecting words are clues to the logic in a passage. Connectives may show time, after, as, before, then, until, when, while. Place is where, or it could be at. Because a reason is because, for, since. Purpose, in order that, so that. Contrast is although, but, much more. Nevertheless, otherwise, yet, and in comparison, and source. The NIV often supplies connecting words that are only implied in the original Greek, such as then. This is done to help the reader follow Paul's logic. Remember last week I was talking about how there's generally two different ways to translate, and there's literal, and then there's by phrase, which fills in those places where there's not a word for a word, which there's more than you think about that. So on that part, I don't have you ever, one of the things Rosie likes to do as far as games is called word search. You have this box and it's got all these letters
Oh, I love that.
jumbled around.
Oh, yeah, I love to find words in those.
And over here to the side, it gives you a list of words to hunt for. She likes to do those. So, and then a thing that my mother loved to do was called, hopefully I can remember the word, it's called cryptographs. Cryptographs. And what it is, it'll be, a cryptograph is a puzzle where it has letters that make up a phrase. But the letters stand for another letter. So you have to decode. So it shows an A, but maybe it's really a B or a C or something like that. You go through this whole thing and it's a cryptograph. So you have to figure it out. But she used to work those right and left. All right, over here in our right-hand margin, it says optional application. How could you increasingly adopt the attitude that suffering for Christ is a privilege that has been granted to you? That's from chapter 1, verse 29. How could you increasingly adopt the attitude that suffering for Christ is a privilege? I think today in the United States, although I think this has changed over time, but we have it easy as far as in a relative sense compared to some other countries or many other countries where Christians are persecuted, not persecuted verbally or let's say passively, but where it's really physical.
Yes.
Physical.
In
China.
That's going on.
India, in some places in India.
Definitely in
Sudan.
Africa.
Places in Africa. In Arab Muslim countries, a lot of times. Although I have read there's a missionary group called they used to be called the Mission Society, but now they're TMS Global, and it appears from their magazine. I send money to support them, but it appears that they have a lot of missionaries in the Arab world, and I have read where there's a place, a country, a region of a country where the Arabs and the Christians, or the Muslims and the Christians, actually are getting along pretty decently. And it's kind of like the Muslims aren't out to get rid of the Christians. They live peaceably. But I can't remember where that is for sudden. But also this week I was listening, or read or listened, that they're getting ready to install a new data cable between, where is it? Someplace in Africa, I guess, maybe, or something like that. Anyway, it's going to go from, let's say, Africa up through Asia and then to Europe. And up to this point, whenever they do those type of cables, if they ran a cable to an Arab Muslim country, they couldn't continue to Israel. But this time, Saudi Arabia has allowed the cable to go through their country and into Israel, and then Israel on out. So that's the first time that's ever happened.
Why is that? Why
Because
would Saudi Arabia?
allow that?
Yes.
That's got people scratching their head. They're not sure why.
Hmm.
So, but it,
That's unusual.
yeah. So, well,
It's highly unusual.
Yeah, that's
Uh-huh.
what I'm thinking.
yeah, it's got people scratching their head, but it's they signed the agreement, and it's going to happen unless they change their mind, I guess.
Hmm.
So maybe there's an ulterior motive. Maybe they figure they're going to listen in and figure out something. I don't know. Okay. Next, for thought and discussion, it says Paul is describing group conduct in chapter 1, verse 27 through 2:18. How can you encourage the attitude of 27-28? Chapter 1, 27 in your church or fellowship group, okay? 27 through 28. Okay, this is from last week's part of it, but how can we encourage that? Well, first off, I think we need to acknowledge that this is the way we should be acting.
Mm-hmm.
And then we need to teach people, encourage people to act this way, and make it important by paying attention to it.
You know, if we, and this is the hard part, if we can teach ourselves to be like Christ and to treat others as He treated them, then they are more likely to respond to us. If we just say, but not show them by actions or deeds, it's a whole different reception.
Oh yeah,
I think.
yeah. Remember, we've said this lots of times. More is caught than taught.
Yeah.
So people see, and they see a lot more than what you give them credit for.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they don't always act on it, but they do. A lot of times they see it. So yes, I think that's it. But if we need to make it a priority and an expectation when new Christians come along, however that is, we need to lay this out, because this is what is expected of you. It's not one of the things that I think where churches fall down upon is when people join the church, not necessarily all, some of them do it, but we need to tell people what we expect of them. What does Christ expect of you when you become a Christian? Are you going to be a pew sitter? Some people call them pew sitters, where you show up and you're maybe like a sponge, or maybe not, and then when it's over you leave, and that's the only evidence that you are a Christian.
Do we have any kind of a class for people who join the church? Just like this is what we do, this is what we believe, this is important to us as a church body. Do we have anything like that?
We have a I don't know if class is the right word, but we have a meeting.
Okay.
It's called Starting Point. That's the second Sunday of each month.
Okay.
And I haven't attended it, but according to what I hear, those are some of the points that they
Okay,
go.
good.
I sense that, I try to remember, I think we one time did have that, what it means to be a
Yeah.
Methodist.
Mhm.
Is that what that starting point is?
Very much, yeah.
Okay, well, yeah,
Okay, good.
Yeah.
we've had that before.
Yeah. I believe so. I haven't been to there, but from what I hear the pastors say about it, that's what I understand.
Mhm.
So, all right, moving on to page 46. It says here, number 4, summarize chapter 2, verses 1 through 4. Oh, this is right down your alley, Lois. being an English teacher,
That I am,
yep,
right?
you probably have laid this out for students before. How many you read a book and you say, summarize?
Tell me what you think. What happened?
Okay, and not the Cliff Notes version.
Absolutely not.
I don't know if those are still available or not.
Yes, they are.
They are.
Okay.
Yeah.
The need hasn't went away, maybe.
No, need will never go away.
People want to take shortcuts. Take shortcuts.
That's true.
Rather than spend the time and possibly enjoy reading the book, they don't either because
You get the idea, but you miss the beauty. You miss the scenery.
yeah.
You miss everything that's important around
Yeah.
what you get.
Yeah, that's kind of like last night I recorded this movie, Star Trek something or other. It was the CBS Sunday night movie several weeks ago. I could tell that because as I was watching it, the commercials were like 3 or 4 weeks before the election. So I've had it on my DVR for a while.
Yes, you have.
And, I just didn't run across the time to where I could watch 3 hours without running out of time. So, but anyway, at the beginning of most movies, when you see them on TV, they say edited to fit the time and some other
Format or something
like that. So as the movie was going on, I was paying attention. Where a commercial would come is usually where they edit it. And the scene will be going along and it's to a point and that scene kind of closes, but it's not entirely closed, and they'll break for a commercial, and when they come back, they're completely someplace else. So those are the places where I think they edit it most likely. So. But anyway, how did you summarize verses? I'm way off track here. Summarize chapter 2, verses 1 through 4. How would you summarize that so I wouldn't have to read all 4 verses?
Well, I had trouble with that one.
Did you? Okay.
I really did.
Right. I did too, so
I said something about, we have to watch out for pride of self. We have to be careful not to let pride get in our way of dealing with others, and that we should love serving others as much as, we love doing things for ourselves, or maybe more so. We should love the service of being good to others, and we should watch out for being full of self, full of pride.
Okay. All right. Were you able to summarize it then?
Well, I did the first part. It said if, the word if, and then verse 1. And I said, if in Christ there's consolation and comfort of love, fellowship of the Spirit, and mercy and compassion.
Yeah.
Then, in 2 through 4, to be like-minded with joy, having the same love, being of one mind.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I forgot to break this down. First you summarize verse 1, and then you go down and summarize verses 2, 3, and 4. So, okay, here's what I come up with. Right, wrong, or whatever. But I'm with you. I never have been too great about summarizing things, I guess. That's why we go down all these pig trails. A rabbit trail.
I'd rather it be a rabbit trail.
Okay.
We had to
Yeah.
pick animals.
Yeah.
I would choose the rabbit over
in
the
Kingwood,
pig.
we have feral hogs.
Oh, no.
So,
Bunches of them.
yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that'll kill your animals, your kitties.
Kill your
and puppies and
Oh, yeah.
vegetation for sure.
Oh, they root through
Grass.
people's yards, tear up their yards.
Gardens.
Gardens.
Why can't they be?
Well, they
with.
trap them. They try to trap them, but the hogs, the feral hogs, are wily little rascals. And at night, they swim. They leave Kingwood and they go out. They swim out to the lake, to the islands that are in Lake Houston,
Oh my gosh.
and they stay there, and then they come back. So, but there's trappers. We have one trapper. Maybe there's 2 trappers, but Kingwood Service Association, they hire this trapper, and he traps them. I was reading. I think he's trapped like 1,600 hogs.
You're
So
kidding.
far this year.
What does he do with them?
Slaughter,
Ooh,
sausage.
They give it to shelters and things
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
okay,
It's good and lean.
okay.
Yeah. So also one time I was over riding on the Spring Creek Greenway, and I came around this corner, and here went a herd of feral hogs. There was probably half a dozen.
The thing about these little rascals reproduce quicker than
Oh, yeah.
bunnies.
Yeah, a sow will have 10 to 12 piglets.
Oh my gosh.
So they're quite reproductive. They're like rabbits, you know, or more, as you were saying, even worse than rabbits, because there's nothing to stop them. Nothing breaks them down. We don't have. Yeah, I guess maybe the one animal that's around, although lately, one animal that's around is the coyotes. In Kingwood, we have coyotes. And also the other day, on nextdoor.com, somebody was at Quick Quack Wash on North Park Drive, and while they were cleaning their car, they looked over at the field behind the Quick Quack car wash, and there was a big cat. And she wasn't sure exactly what it was, but several people think it wasn't a bobcat because the tail was long, had a long tail. But they think that might have been a mountain lion.
Oh my
In
goodness.
Kingwood?
Yeah.
Well, where does that come from?
Woods.
The woods?
Yeah, we have lots of woods in Kingwood.
Oh my gosh. Will it eat the hogs?
Oh yeah, they'd love to gnaw on some hogs. So, and one day I was biking down 1314, and up ahead I saw this. Wow, this is a large roadkill, something up ahead. And as I got closer to it, it was a bobcat got run over on the shoulder. I even took a picture of it. I have a picture of it. It was a bobcat. It was a strange looking bobcat though.
Well, Riley lives up in Conroe, and River Plantation, there's a right of way on the borders of property line, and it's about a 30-yard right of way. And he said at certain times you can just go out there in his backyard and lean against that fence, and you can hear the coyotes howling down that right of way.
Yeah.
In Conroe.
Coyotes?
Oh yeah, I don't know if it's still a problem in downtown Los Angeles. Coyotes are a big problem. Were a big problem. I don't know that it still is, but they were a big problem. They would go on people's porches and patios, and if they had dog food or cat food out, they'd take it.
Oh my goodness.
Well, anyway, back to summarizing here. So verse 1, I got us way off track here. Christ, here's how I summarize verse 1. Christ encourages love, sharing the Spirit, compassion, and sympathy. All right. Verses 2 through 4, I came up with same mind, same love, agreeing. Don't put self first. Look out for the interest of others.
Yeah. Don't be selfish and look for the interests of others.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah, that was difficult because right there after the word look out, my pen ran out of ink, so I had to switch pens. Over here on the side, left-hand side, we got for thought and discussion. What is the difference between unity and uniformity? When you hear those two words, are they the same? Are they synonyms?
Not really. No. Unity means you're of one body, one group, together. Uniformity means you may look alike or have the same appearance as being the same outwardly.
Okay.
But not necessarily inwardly.
Yep. Friday night I was watching The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, and talk about uniformity. The stormtroopers on Star Wars and how they have the white, those are uniform. They're all the same height. They got the same uniform on.
Look alike.
They're as far as you know, there are clones inside of them. They're all identical. So, but you're right. Uniformity and unity are drastic. There's quite a big difference. Now, what would happen if all Christians had the same opinions and tastes? That would be if we were all uniform.
That would be boring. We would not be individuals.
Yeah, right. I think that's what would be the difference. Individuality, the unity part that makes us strong as Christians is each of us has different talents and gifts and how we use them, versus uniformity meant that each person had the same talents or lack of, and so we wouldn't have the same strength of variety.
People are meant to be individually unique, different.
Yeah.
And we are in the eyes of God. We're not all alike.
Yep.
And I don't want to be alike. I have enough trouble with myself. Taking on someone else.
I admire your honesty there. You know what I did for this?
Okay.
I thought, now how can this be? I know it's unity versus uniformity, and I picked music.
Oh.
I happen to like certain hymn type songs.
Mm-hmm.
Not so crazy about some of the worship, things you sing 40 times each, as opposed to some Christian rock groups. I know they're out there trying to reach people who won't listen to hymns, but I personally like Southern gospel music.
I do too.
We're all, reaching for people to bring them to Christ, but we're going down a different road to bring them in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the, what I would call the, I guess it's the opposite of uniformity.
That would be the unity part, where we have the same goal,
The goal,
But
but how we get there.
a different
We
path,
differ in how we.
a different
reach that
path
goal.
or different approach to getting there.
But we don't want to go down this road of saying all roads, wherever it comes from, leads to God. It doesn't.
No, they don't.
They don't.
No.
They
So-
never will.
No.
Anyway, that's the one thing that I can see people say, oh, well, I'm just trying to get to heaven, so I'll worship mushrooms every morning.
There's
not
only
gonna
one way
happen.
that I know.
No, that ain't gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen.
But there's probably a group of people out there that believe that.
Yeah.
So, all right, we get down here, back to the middle of the page. Fellowship with the Spirit. That's koinonia. Remember when we had a class here called the koinonia
Sure
class?
do.
Yeah. The same word as partnership. The Revised Standard Version says participation. Paul could mean the communion between us and the Spirit, or the communion we have with each other because we each share in God's Spirit. Koinonia is a fellowship. It's what years ago when we had that class, we kind of interchanged koinonia and fellowship. And then compassion, mercies in King James Version, affection in RSV and New American Standard, God's emotions of care. That's in James, Romans, and in Corinthians. So question 5, this will probably be our last question here maybe. Have you experienced one of the blessings that you called out in chapter 2, verse 1? For instance, what encouragement from Christ have you received, or how has God's love comforted you? So, we wrote down, or we identified the blessings. Now, have you experienced any of those blessings?
I think we all have.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Being around Christians, that if you haven't, then
Something's wrong.
yeah, something's wrong. You've been around the people you've been around that said they're Christians aren't really Christians, or aren't practicing. Maybe there are those pew sitters.
Maybe so.
Yeah, or secular. We have secular Christians. Those are people that come to church that they're not really believers, but they show up from time to time, and I'm not sure exactly what their motivation is, because I guess since I'm not one of them, I have trouble identifying with them, but hopefully.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Sometimes I equate it. I don't know if this is correct, but sometimes I equate it. It used to be, maybe it still is, but politicians, one of the things that they always put down in their bio when they were running for office is, I go to church, I go to XYZ church, maybe I taught Sunday school or whatever, and that was always an important biography point that they put in. So.
Sounds good, looks good, we'll get you votes.
Yeah. So I put down compassion and sympathy. After Hazel passed away, I experienced a lot of compassion. Maybe, hopefully you did when Sandy.
I did. And
on that. Speaking of which, I haven't asked you in a long time. Your daughter Carrie, she was going through some medical issues. How's she doing?
She is better.
Oh, good.
For the most part, she is better. But Carrie will always have issues. I've decided she's just an issue kind of person.
Yeah. And
you're just going to find her. But she's married to a wonderful guy, and they have 2 great children. And you know, to me, her life has been blessed. And that's an example of blessing. Yes, problems. Yes, medical illness, better, and everything else. You know, there are problems, but to have a family you love and who loves you, I mean, what more can you ask for?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So last night I was watching this movie on Hallmark. I don't watch a lot of Hallmark movies. Hazel and I used to watch a lot of them. She liked them. To me, sometimes they're a little corny.
A little bit.
A little corny. They're too predictable. But anyway, last night I watched this one. I can't remember what the title of it was. But anyway, it had Holly Pete. I don't know if you're familiar with who Holly Pete is. But now I forget my point that I was trying to make. Lois, you got me off track here.
Sorry, I did.
Oh, I know what it was. She was a doctor, but she had some issues in the past, and she couldn't. She would, or her life now. She was a doctor in the military, and after she got out of the military, she wouldn't accept a job at one place and stay. So she was one of these rotating doctors. She would move around and around and around. Anyway, this one doctor in a little town, Willowbrook, in northern New York State, he had a clinic, and it was a town about 5,000 people. He had this clinic, and he had to go into the hospital and have surgery. He had rotator cuff problems, so he needed a doctor to fill in with him while he was out. But one of his patients was this lady that, I'd say the last couple of years, her health started going down, but she was young, and they did tests and tests and tests, couldn't figure it out. And I come to find out, I don't know if this is really real thing, but Holly, I'm trying to remember what her name was on the movie, but anyway, her real name's Holly. She going through digging, research and everything, she found out that this lady was allergic to nickel. And she had just started, in the last couple of years, she had started catering business, and she was using stainless steel pots and pans. Mm-hmm. What makes steel stainless is part of the alloy is nickel. Mm-hmm. And so she had a reaction to the nickel in stainless steel. Microscopic thing, nobody has this, but Holly found it anyway. So she got rid of all of her stainless steel pots and pans, and she started to recover. But anyway, that's the story.
I forgot what the point was.
Yeah.
It was a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, it was a Hallmark movie.
The point he was making.
Yeah, the point I was making, that's true.
They're going to capture these wild pigs in stainless steel traps. No, that's not it either.
We'll have to play the recording back and figure it out.
I'll let you do that.
If anybody out there remembers, give Rick a call.
Yeah, just comment on the video there. So we're going to stop there. Okay. At the bottom of page 46. Next week we'll start at the top of page 47.
Okay,
and what day will that be?
That'll be December 6th.
Oh my gosh, really?
December 6th, yeah.
Oh, we're in December.
Not yet.
Almost.
Tuesday we'll be back in December. We'll be cranking up December for us. So.
Well, maybe we can get 1 or 2 people to join us. Come on, someone, come join us. I need help.
Yep.
At least 3, please show up.
Please.
All right, let's close with the word of prayer.
Okay.
Father, thank you for this time as we've had. I think we've had a good time as we studied and discussed chapter 2, verses 1 through 4 in Philippians. Help us to take what we've discussed and learned and apply it to our lives today as you bless us, Lord. Particularly the blessings that we discovered in verses 1 through 4 in chapter 2. Amen.
I think we have fun.
I hope so.
Enjoy.
Enjoy.
And what else can there What more can there be?
Mhm.
Okay, go to your second job.
Yep.